Hi, welcome to Defining Moments. I'm Suzanne Quast. As most of you know, I sit down with influential people as they discuss the defining moments that shape their lives in a meaningful way. My next guest has been on 80 different TV shows, iconic shows ranging from Southland, Band of Brothers, The Walking Dead, and now The Kids Are All Right. I had the honor and privilege of working with him, and he obviously is a phenomenal actor. He is so giving and present and really wants to bring out the best in the actors he works with. But not only that, he is also one of the kindest, coolest guys I know. My next guest is Michael Cudlitz, and here are his moments. Well, thank you for being here. I'm super psyched to see you.
Thank you.
It's been a little while.
It's been a moment.
Yes, and so I know you're really busy. You're right now in the middle of shooting The Kids Are All Right, which for any of you guys who haven't seen it, you need to go see it. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, it's really fun. How did you go from The Walking Dead, which was a 1-hour sci-fi drama, to a single camera comedy on ABC?
Slowly. No, I decided at the when I finished up with Walking Dead, which was officially the end of season 7, I decided I was kind of done for a while killing stuff. I spent roughly 15 years playing characters that carried guns, killed things, or was being killed, or pursuing, or this. That's what I did, and I loved it. I had a great time, and I will probably go back to it. But I sort of said, you know what? With everything that's happening now in the world and society and in my life, I wanted something that was fun and easy, and I wanted to laugh at work, for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And it took This last year, I did the pilot for The Kids Are All Right, but the year before, I did another pilot for ABC, which was another sort of dramedy, kind of in the vein of Bones, sort of. It was a buddy cop show, but it was 2 ladies.
Okay.
And I was their boss, and it was like a great gig, and the script was hilarious, and the pilot wound up not getting picked up, but it was sort of like the first step in what I wanted to do. So I just put it out there that I wanted to do a comedy. I wanted to stay in town. I wanted to, all these things that you never have to happen in your career.
Yeah.
And I basically bagged a unicorn. It's a half-hour comedy. They found me. It's a half-hour comedy in town, 10 minutes from my house.
Oh my gosh, that's a dream.
It's amazing. Yeah. They reached out to Tim Doyle, who wrote the pilot. I think initially got a list from ABC of people who they would prefer.
Okay.
A list of like 20 people with comedy background and comedians. And Tim said, I may or may not want anyone on that list, but here's my list.
Okay.
And he said he wanted people who would be physically imposing, but also had, the ability to do the comedy. And I was on that list. I don't know if I was on the top of that list. I think that when people think about things creatively, I don't know if anything ever is like, that's the guy. Tim's been doing this long enough to know that, okay, I may have people that I want, but they'll say no to for whatever reason, this and that, but these are the people that I'm interested in. So he came to me, and they sent the script, and it was probably one of the first scripts that came out last year. So I got from my agency, they sent it over and they said, look, we know you passed the year before on a comedy. This is different. Take a look at it. We know it's the first script out this pilot season, but just take a peek. And I was traveling at the time, and I said, all right, I'll take a look at it. I'll read it on the plane. And I read it, and it was just fantastic. There's one scene in the show in particular that I thought, if they can maintain this balance of comedy and heart, I'm in.
Which scene was it? Was it
the scene with me talking with Lawrence in the desert about what I hope for him
and the kids? Yes,
children.
I love. Are you talking about the line where you say, "My father only scratched the surface of the earth, and I want my kids to reach for the stars"? Yeah. Look at that. I am quoting it.
Yeah.
I watched it. It was really touching.
No, but I'm literally reading it, and I'm crying. I'm crying. I'm reading a 32-page comedy, and I'm laughing hysterically one minute about, I was in, you want to go backpack across Germany? I backpacked across Germany when I was your age, except there were Germans shooting at me. So, so like this whole, like the comedy of it based, balanced with the heart, really touched me. And I said, all right, I'm going to go meet with these guys. So I met with Tim Doyle, who wrote it, and Randall Einhorn, who was our producing director. And one of the first things that Tim said to me was, first I got to tell you, he goes, my daughter and I used to sit and watch Southland together, and we loved you. And I thought,
this is a good sign.
This is a guy who knows me and knows he's not coming at, because I didn't know what they were coming at me for. I thought, okay, well, we like his work. Let's see if he can do it. But he was coming at me because he respected me and liked me as an actor, and he'd known my previous work, and he was very much aware of what I was capable of doing. So I said, if anybody in the comedy world or any writer is going to write to my strengths, it's going to be this guy, especially having read what I read in the pilot so far as, the heart of it and how he connected with his kids, and then knowing that he was a fan of Southland. I was like, this guy's going to write for me if I decide to do this and if it all works out. And it did, and it's been amazing. We went into it thinking, if we could only sort of keep that level of writing and performance and production that we got in the pilot through some of that, if we can keep most of that, it'd be great. And we've, in my opinion, far surpassed that in every episode we've done since.
I agree. Watching the pilot, I was like, how are they going to, there's 8 boys and then 2 parents. It's 10 people in the scene at times. I'm like, how are they going to be able to differentiate the kids enough to that you care enough? And they did.
Yeah, and our kids are fantastic. Like fantastic actors, and they're all individual, and they all have their own thing as a character. So you don't, there's no sort of competitive acting going on where somebody's trying to, steal someone's joke or steal the focus. Everybody's really into what's going on and really attuned to what's happening in the scene, and I could not be happier.
Oh, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then being a father, is there some of that you touch or tune into?
I think in some ways this is probably closer to me than anything, because I grew up in a sarcastic household, and I am pretty sarcastic myself at times. No. Yeah, so it's in some ways it's very, very, very close, to me. And in some ways it's not. It's completely, I can't imagine having 8 kids. I mean, I'm buried with 2, and I love my kids and I want the best for them, but it's work all the way around, it's work for them. It's hard being a kid.
Yeah. And then to be one of 8.
One of 8, yeah. How do you make your voice heard, which is one of the reasons, or one of the themes in the show is how do you, with our lead, or I don't say lead character, Timmy, no offense to him, but he's the voice of everyone in a sense, but it's definitely his perspective, back, or his voice, telling the story, which is great. It's a great perspective because it allows us to fudge things. It's because it's a memory. He's talking about a memory. We've had people go, oh, that didn't happen that year. That happened 4 years later. It's like, yeah, of course.
But that's how memories work.
That's how memories are. You're kind of like, oh, at that time. So the show takes place in the summer of 72, and we're always in the summer of 72. I don't know if next year we're going to be in the summer of 73, but right now we're always in the summer of 72. And if the network says, okay, we need a Christmas episode, or we need a Valentine's episode, then we jump to that Christmas, and then we come right back to 72. Yeah. It's like there's no sort of linear timeline. It doesn't happen sequentially. It's not like 24, where it's like you need to see this episode to see that.
Which is kind of nice.
It's great. You can just pick it up anywhere and watch a one-off if you want. So do that. So go check it out. Even if you think, oh, I've never watched the show before, go check it out.
It's phenomenal. And then also this comes full circle for you, because this is the stage that you first worked on, right?
Yeah.
Explain to the viewers.
We are shooting on stages in Van Nuys that right when I got out of school, a couple years after I got out of school. I paid my way through school doing film and television construction. Then I actually continued that after I got out of college, and decided that would be my day job, because I learned construction and furniture building from my father. And it was natural for me, and I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed, sort of leaving at the end of the day and seeing something built that wasn't there before. It was a very satisfying feeling to build. But
I would understand that because I've never built anything. But I can understand how...
You built all of this.
I did. With my presence.
My bare hands, only one. But I did film and television construction, and I became a construction coordinator on the original Beverly Hills 90210, which shot in Van Nuys for Aaron Spelling, and we converted all these warehouses into sound stages. And when the show would go down, I would stay and contract out and get the big doors cut out so we could move stuff from one stage to the other, and the soundproofing, and work on the air conditioning systems and all this stuff. I'd have all that work contracted out, but I was arranging everything. And so basically I built these stages, or was a main force in the coordinating of getting these stages built 20-something years ago. And those are the stages that we're shooting my show in now. So
how cool is that?
It's come a little full circle.
Well, going back to your roots, I'm curious, as a child, was there a time where...
I was never a child.
You were never a child, no. You always look like that.
I'm more a child now than I was when I was a child, I think.
Probably.
I was a very serious kid.
Were you?
Yes, I was. Well, I'm very focused. I'm very Capricorn.
Okay. So, that says a lot.
Yeah, there's always a list. There's always a goal, a focus, a thing.
But then as a child, I know you grew up in New Jersey, and you talked about how much you loved band and choir and theater, but was there a time as a child where you were like, this is what I want to do? I want to be an actor.
Yeah, but it was not something you could do for a living, in my world. It was like something you do. It's like, what do you mean you want to be an actor? Like, yeah, that's great, kid. Go get a job. It's like, it was a blue collar situation I was growing up in, and my house was certainly, dark blue collar. Everybody, you worked, you busted your butt for anything you had. Nothing was given to you. It was all, it was all fought for. So the idea of doing something so, whimsical for anything other than just entertainment or just having fun for yourself it wasn't even in the cards. So the idea of doing that was never even an option.
Do you think that growing up in a blue-collar place, which I understand actually, and I feel like, but that's why I have such a great imagination. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's why? Well,
it's like things weren't always optimum at home, so you wanted to get out.
Yes.
You wanted to escape. That was what band and choir and all that was. I mean, it's like, look, everyone has their thing that they're going through, but it was a way to not be home. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest benefit that I got out of it, when I was doing it. And we weren't doing plays; we were doing musicals. Okay. I can't tell. I mean, I've been in so many musicals, singing and dancing, and I cannot sing or dance. So you explain that crap to me. I was acting the hell out of those songs that I couldn't sing.
So you're going to do a musical.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That'll be your next project.
Come see me on Broadway. No, that's not going to happen. Not in a musical. He says.
Right.
Smash cut to.
So so you did a lot of musicals because that's what you did as a kid, and you felt alive, and this is.
Yeah, it was like it was not home. It was like it was great. It was like we're somewhere else. And then started doing plays more, and then moved out to California. And my senior year of high school, I came out to California, out in Riverside. And
just so by yourself, or with
no, moved out to live with my dad.
Okay.
Was just wanted to get out of Jersey.
I get it.
Sort of like,
get out of Kentucky.
Yeah, there was no horrible thing happening in one place or the other.
Yeah.
My parents had been divorced, and I was sort of like, I'm going to go see what that's like.
Uh-huh.
And then the theater that I moved to, or the city that I moved to in the high school, had a theater program, and I signed up for theater class, and they were like, well, if you've done anything, just let's basically do a resume of what you've done. So I started writing all this stuff down, and I'd done like 20 or 30 things, by that age.
Impressive.
Yeah, but I was sort of like, you think it's not like a job resume. It's sort of like your scholastic resume of stuff you've done. And I've been doing plays since the third grade. Some plays, mostly musicals, and they sort of looked at it and they were like.
Who are you?
What? Like, okay, and there I started doing, real plays and being taken sort of seriously. And then I got involved in the community theater there, and did some summer stuff, with people in the city and people in the city college. Went to the city college there, and they had a big program. They actually had a big musical program as well, but they did plays. They did, I think in the summer they did 4 shows, 3 were musicals, and 1 was a legit play. So I got involved with those guys as well, and basically just started doing it more, And then one day my dad walked in when I was doing. I decided I was going to go to school for engineering. I was going to transfer and go to City College and then transfer into a 4-year university. My dad walked in on me one day and I was doing my homework for engineering. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I'm doing my engineering homework." He's like, "No, like, what are you doing?" It was like, felt like John Cusack and, Say Anything at the dinner table. He's like, "What are you planning on doing with your future?" And he's like, "Kickboxing, sport of the future." So I basically, it's like, I want to act, but I don't, I can't make a living at that, It's just such a small number. I still want to continue doing it. But he said, "Well, why don't you give it a shot?" He goes, you have something to fall back on already.
Yeah.
So why go to school to learn some other thing to fall back on when you already have something? Why don't you go pursue what you want to pursue?"
Wow.
So.
Shout out to Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
So I quit school the next day. And then he was like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "Finish out the semester."
He's like,
I was like, "No, I kind of,
not like literally make the decision right
exactly.
then and there. But that's all you needed is just the permission to do it.
I think so. Probably, deep down, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I wasn't into going back to like a 4-year university, but I did know that through my high school drama teacher, I knew that there was a school a few schools, but one in particular that was different than regular colleges, where you could go and it was more of a vocational school. It was an art school. So I wound up, it was California Institute of the Arts. I wound up applying there. The only school that I applied to, because I just didn't want to, I was like, if I'm not going to go to an art school or something that specific, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to go to a 4-year university.
Good for you.
I didn't do well in high school when I was there. That type of structured learning was not for me. So I needed to see if there was another type of structured learning or unstructured learning. And I was fortunate enough to get in.
And then did you also, once you got in there, did you start auditioning?
No, for stuff there, you're there for those years, and you're up in Valencia. It's nice because it's close to LA, but which wasn't even an option. I was probably, in my mind, I was going to go do regional theater or go back to New York and do theater in New York. So I wound up going up into Cal Arts, and basically because of everything I had done in City College, I had met almost all my general education needs for them. I had to take 1 or 2 different classes that were required for the certificate or the Bachelor of Fine Arts, and then the rest was just acting classes, and I could be involved in more projects because I had more time. So I wound up for 3 years just acting.
I feel like that's so much what Malcolm Gladwell talks about is the 10,000 hours, and you probably got in your 10,000 hours or close to it during that 3 years.
Probably, and then cumulative from everything else. It's like it's sort of a people are very specific about their techniques and the way they work, and the things that they say. Oh, I do this is my way of working, or that. I think that I personally think that when you start talking about your way of working, you dilute your way of working. My way of working is from my experiences, as is everyone's, with working with different people and different programs and different styles and things. So I love coming on a set and people are all doing different, styles and techniques and their thing. And I'm like, dude, if that's what you need to do your thing, that's great.
So when you talk about talking about it dilutes the process, so does that mean you won't talk about your process?
I don't think, no, because I think what happens is I think it's like giving notes on a set. I think that people, you talk about things when you talk about something that's emotionally important to you, and you try to put it into words that you think someone else will understand.
Okay.
But you're not saying what you want to say. You're already editing because I'm going to go, oh, I'm going to do this in a way that where I hope I can make you understand what I'm thinking. And then with what I'm saying, you're going to take whatever you take out of it, but it's not what I'm saying. It's not the thing I'm doing, because it's not a tangible thing. You can't say, you can say this mug is hard, and you go, oh, okay, I get that. But if there was some sort of different material that's made out of it, and I'm trying to explain it to you, everything gets lost in the explanation if I can't give you the mug and you can touch it.
Okay.
See, it's already getting weird.
Yes, because I'm kind of like.
It's when we talk about things that shouldn't be talked about, misunderstandings can happen. People take one thread of something, especially when it's an emotional topic, and people's work and artistic work tends to be very emotional because it's very personally connected to whoever is doing it. So I find that it's best to not talk about that stuff. One of the things that I hate doing, and I have to do them sometimes, is when people talk about, I say, my character, when I felt my character was going through you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, shut up. Like, people don't care. I want to go watch the movie. I want to see the thing. I don't know. I mean, that's great. Like, awesome. I don't want to hear it.
Got it.
I don't want to hear it at all. I want to watch you do your thing. Mm-hmm. My mentor, Chris Chulak, when we're on set, he was the creative driving force in Southland. He'd say, hey, Chris, I want to do something, or someone would come on set who hadn't been on set before, a guest artist or someone who was coming in. They go, I'm thinking about that. He's like, shh, just do it.
Got it.
He said, just do it. We'll save all the time with you having to explain it to me and me thinking what I think you mean and this and that. Like, let's get rid of all that. Just do it. And you're like, it's very freeing to just be given the permission to just do it.
Then for every character you play, do you then implement, you don't have to say which ones, but different techniques based on the character?
No, I do. The thing I will say is I think that everything comes from research.
Okay.
And we work together on a project. I think it's important to do the research of what the character's job is, what that person does for a living.
Okay.
Because most people, what they do for a living, it will influence almost 100% of their lives, because your job takes up so much of your time. But that doesn't define who you are, it just really influences it. So you need to know the job of the person that you're portraying so that stuff comes secondhand. So when you're playing a cop, you're not a cop and then that character. You're the character who happens to be a cop. So you need to learn all the stuff that you need to know about being a cop so that you don't have to deal with that. So that you're in the middle of the scene, you're actually handling all your stuff properly, and it's not something that's distracting from who you are. It doesn't really become who you are. Yeah. So that is like a nuts and bolts thing of, this is a great story. Again, Chris Chulak tells us, and he uses it in notes all the time, where this person was an ER, and they were playing they were a neurosurgeon, a neonatal neurosurgeon, and their job is they have this scene where they got to come in and they're these twins and they have to save these kids, and they have all this information that they give to the parents, and they have to go and they get in the operating room and they're doing this thing, and what happens is that the guy starts going through the scene and he's just very intense, and he's like, we got to and he's like, whoa, he goes, you do this every day of your life. This is the thing that you're great at. This is the thing that brings the least stress to you in your life.
That's so true.
And you realize, oh shit, to the parents, they're like, holy crap, my kid and the brains, and this guy's like, or this guy, you want that person to be like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to separate them, we're going to connect all the tissues, and we're going to do this, and you need the nurses to go take. You want that person to be in charge, not, whoa, we're going to save the kids, and let's go, There's none of that, and that all falls back on the thing of learn the job. Mm-hmm. Do the research, and it all comes from the research of what these men and women do, and then you move forward from there.
So doing the research for something like Band of Brothers that you did you do a lot of research then on what it means to be a vet?
Just no, specifically the weapon stuff, because the emotional things and the relationships are all, that stuff doesn't change historically. Mm-hmm. There's conflict and there's resolution and there's relationships. That stuff tends to not change. The stuff that does change is, back in the 40s, how were the weapons carried? How did you, what was the sort of the relationship physically you had with each other? What are the things that you wouldn't do? Obviously you're not running around high-fiving each other. I mean, that's a silly example, but it's a great example because you need to be appropriate to the time. So with us, we based everything in our weapons training and the kind of PT and physical training that they went through back in the time, and culturally what was going on, like everyone's smoking, and there's things that just inform just the stuff, and that's the stuff that you can forget about, but it's there.
Yes.
And then we can have our scene.
What was the audition process like for Band of Brothers?
Band of Brothers is kind of awesome because they were Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg ran the auditions.
Small people. Really
yeah, perhaps you've heard of them. And we didn't really work with them a lot at all, which is kind of nice because those personalities tend to get all the attention in the sense of everyone caters to them. So Steven in particular, I'd auditioned for Steven for High Incident, a TV show at one point. And actually, the first couple of auditions, he wasn't in the room. And when I finally met him, he said, yeah, I saw you, I was watching your other two auditions when you were here. And you realized there was a camera on you that he's watching, he's in the other room.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
to be distracted.
He doesn't want to be distracting. He says, I realize that because I'm Steven Spielberg, actors, especially young actors, get flustered or can get, he goes, I'm not what's important in this room because your audition is what's important. And I just thought that's very, very cool of him and very aware, self-aware. And I've had people who've worked with him who just said he was, on set with him, who just said he's the nicest, most sort of laid back guy you'd ever want to work with. But for Band of Brothers, we all auditioned, and then once we were called back, there was this sort of divide we saw that was happening. There were a lot of really well-known actors at the callbacks.
Okay.
And then there was this group of guys like me at the time who had been very fortunate enough to do like a bunch of guest star work, and it was kind of like we were character actors, and people, you knew the faces, but you didn't know the names. You're just like, oh, and then you were like, holy crap, that's so and so. Like, I won't even say the names because they wind up not doing it, so I don't. Nobody needs to know that. You could tell once they hired everybody, they chose to use no names because there was nobody. And they're really, really terrific actors who were in there.
100%.
Who we thought, oh, these guys are gonna, do it, and then they wound up going with it. No, but then they wound up going with these great, characters. It's literally a who's who. It's like my generation's, outsiders. You're sort of like, oh shit, all these guys. I know all these guys. Was
that nerve-wracking to be in a room with them, or?
Well, we figured they got it. We're like, we're here for whatever. At least I'd hire. This guy. I love this guy's work. Of course you're going to hire him. The highest, highest profile person we had was David Schwimmer, who played Captain Sobel. And that was by design as well, because it was like, he was fish out of water for him going from comedy to 1 hour.
Yeah.
And it was really wise casting on their part, and David did an amazing job. But once we all got called back, they paired us up, and we were all reading the same scenes and swapping out different roles and stuff. And in the callback, Steven Spielberg has got this big Beta camera, and he's following everybody around, shooting stuff handheld and crawling over equipment and stuff. And
so is it just a room?
It's a room with stands, like all the stuff in here that you guys can't see. And people are crawling around equipment, and guys are crawling through trenches, so they're crawling like under tables and stuff. And Steven's like walking around with his camera, filming everything. At one point, Steven trips and he falls. Oh shit! He gets up. He goes, "We'll fix it in editing." He's laughing, and it was a great audition experience. And then they, about a week later, after the callbacks, they sent us these scripts. And it was sort of the beginning of that time where they were studios and stuff were starting to send out scripts that you had to sign non-disclosure agreements to, so people wouldn't know what it was. And I think the first script I got was printed on dark red construction paper.
I don't think I've
with
seen
black
color,
type. You can't supposedly, or at the time, you either can't photocopy or it's very, very hard to photocopy it. So you couldn't make copies of the script. It had your name across diagonally, which they do now, but it's usually, gray over white paper. But this was like, and it was hard to read even, just to read it regularly. And I read the script, sent me 5 scripts. And I read the scripts and I wasn't in any of them. I was like listed in the thing of like in the background we have, and I was like, huh. And they're like, well, they really want you to do this. So I called up my agency and I said, I don't think I'm going to do this. I'm working all the time. I'm going to go away for a year to do nothing. I can't. I don't think I can do this.
Wow.
So I get a call back about 20 minutes later. Well, I didn't even think email was a thing. It was like, I paged. I probably got paged. I called and told them that. Then they called me back and they said, is it okay if Meg Lieberman's office calls and talks with you? I said, of course.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, so Meg calls and she's like, look, we realized after we sent that out, yeah, you're not in, but episode, it's either 4 or 5, is being written now, and it is basically just your character. It's like it's like a standalone episode with this character. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I'm like,
that's a big deal.
I was like, yeah. Sort of like, well, okay, even if it's a year, it's basically, these are full 1-hour standalone projects. It's HBO, so we know the quality is going to be amazing. It's Steven Spielberg, so we know that the character stuff is going to be amazing and the project's going to have integrity. I was like, so if I spend a year and at least I'm doing, 1 episode that's, standalone, like it's all right, it's worth the risk. So I said, okay. When everything else got rewritten and everything, they had that 1 standalone episode, but then I was, as with all of us, we were all peppered throughout. Some of the guys had, like a really big focused episode on them, and then they were in the episodes sprinkled throughout. Mm-hmm. Like to say, and then you sort of rise to the front and kind of tell your story and then fade back, to help support everybody else. And then some other guys were much more present, but were present throughout the entire episode, and they didn't have necessarily a standalone episode. So that was kind of the dynamic of that thing. So we all knew that we were all supporting each other, and for those that were having little to do in one episode, you were going to be having more to do in another one, and the guys who you had been supporting would then be supporting you. So it became very much an ensemble when we were working, and everyone was really looking out for each other's back, but also was very present when you had not a ton of stuff to do.
Which is amazing.
But you knew you were there for the guys. And when you see the show, you see it. You can watch Band of Brothers over and over again and just watch it in different ways. You can focus just on the background and just see what's going on in the background. It's just as captivating, as riveting as what's happening in the foreground. So I'm very, very proud to be part of that.
I heard you say if you never did anything else in your career at that time, you were like, I feel fulfillment.
Oh, 100%. The project became, there's a lot of projects where you say I'm proud of. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of projects you say, I know what the purpose of this is. This is entertainment. This is either, comedy, or it enlightens, some story about the human condition. There are very, very few projects that you get to say they changed my life.
Wow.
And that was definitely one of them. And those men and those women and those families, that were there for their, fathers and grandfathers, just amazing.
What other projects would you say that not only are you most proud of, but were life-changing?
Like profoundly life-changing? Probably nothing. For me, but so far as life-changing is like my life, it was like Southland was nice to be in town and working full-time, artistically. And artistically it was a blast, but that sort of like, that settled things, because you're on a series for, 5 years, you sort of have some, financial stability.
Which is always a good thing.
Yeah, well, but as a guest actor and a character actor, you don't have that. You would go. I've been very, very fortunate where I've worked a lot, but I always jumped back to construction when I wasn't working. If I had a break or something, I would go right back into my construction stuff. But there are people out there who have really great sort of a few years, and then nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's not, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens, and it's a very real even probability, not even just possibility for character actors. So it's hard. So, things that change your life are sometimes not just because it's, something that was profound, but it's also something that, this is maybe not exactly what I want it to be doing, but it's giving me the financial stability to be able to stay here, to continue doing what I want to do. So I'm able to be here and healthy, mentally. So I'm available and ready for when the thing comes that I want to be doing.
Was there ever a moment that you felt like quitting?
Yeah, I think everybody has that moment or those moments where you're either quitting because you've had it with the industry, because there's no like, if I do this, then this will happen. Then now that I've done this, then this will happen. There's no sort of building that is in the system anyway. It does happen that way, but there's no guarantee of that. It's sort of like, if I do this, then I don't know what'll happen.
You're right.
It's
like a normal career where if I do this, this, and this, this is what I can achieve.
Exactly. Most things you build, they're building blocks for something else. In film and television, in all the careers available in that, there's no linear upward trajectory. It's all, chance, but it's also being ready when that chance and opportunity provides, the opening. So, there's a couple times where I thought, all right, I'm done. This is just too stressful and too, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and my situation was such that I was able to provide so my wife could stay at home and raise the kids. They traveled with us. We homeschooled for a while, so we traveled as a family throughout the world.
Which is amazing.
It's just totally amazing. Yeah, totally amazing. But it's a lot.
It's stressful. You had a lot on your shoulders. So I'm sure the times when you weren't working, then you have that moment of, again.
And you sort of think in your head, you're like, well, you know what, if I was doing construction, I would actually be working all the time. And I wouldn't have, that would be taken care of. So you kind of, you think,
But then you probably would think that, and then as soon as you really started to marinate in that, then you book a job.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad.
Well, and you do, and you go back. Well, and then you're also, every actor goes through the thing where you're in the middle of a job, and you're like, oh man, they're going to find out. They're going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing.
But you do. I know.
No, but that's the thing, and that's sort of and that's the real feeling. You're sort of like, I don't, I talked J.T. Walsh, rest in peace. He would always talk about how he doesn't know what he's doing. He was like, I don't know why these people pay me this money, because I do not know what I'm doing. And he's like one of the most amazing actors.
Like, if you feel that way.
I'm like, but it was. I kind of found it comforting. I was like, oh, okay, good. It's not just me.
Yeah.
It's not just me. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so then all of your Walking Dead fans, I feel like they are so loyal. They are so amazing. You go through your Twitter and your Instagram, and wow.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, I know we've been talking about auditions. Did you audition for The Walking Dead? What happened with that? How did that project come about?
I did audition for The Walking Dead. I almost said I didn't. I did. I was actually, The Walking Dead, yes, I did. I was in jury duty.
Okay.
I was in jury duty. And I was not, I got the stuff, the material for Walking Dead, which they never give you the actual stuff because because the show has such an aggressive fan base. They try to keep everything a surprise. So I got the material that was similar to the personality of the character in a completely different scenario and a completely different scene. So I remember Sherry Thomas and Sharon Bialy cast the show, and I remember getting the material, and they said, hey, they want to see you for this thing on The Walking Dead. I said, oh, what is it? They go, I can't tell you. I said, well, okay. And by this point, I'm so frustrated with all the Marvel stuff where you get 2 pages of a script that you have to sign a non-disclosure, and you can only see them right before. Like. How do you can't work that way. Yeah. Go look at my tape and see something that's edited and put together and see me act. Because right now, you're going for the guy who learned the lines quicker in the hallway.
You're right.
It's a little ridiculous. So if anyone's cast those movies and you're listening, it's fucking ridiculous and it's dumb and it doesn't serve your purpose.
So give the actors a little bit of time.
Yeah. So we get this thing, and I'm like, okay, this character, you can't tell me what it is, and blah blah. All right, whatever. So I'm going through the stuff, and basically I call up and I say, look, I have jury duty. I'm not called tomorrow because I've already called in. I said, can they see me tomorrow? I know they want to see me Friday, and it's a lot of material, and I'll just do the best I can with it, but I might not be available Friday. So let's just
Wow.
do this. And they were like, yeah, sure. So I go in and I do this thing, and I kind of had a great audition. I connected with the material in a really fun way. And I said, look, here's the deal. Jury duty, blah, 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 blah. If you want to see me again and you think this is something that they might really be serious about, I'll come back on Friday. So I get a call the next day from the agency, and they said they don't need to see you again. They thought it was great. They're just going to send this to Scott Gimple, who was the showrunner. I go, well, wait. I mean, I can come. Like I want to do a good job. I just need to make sure. It was not throwaway, but it was sort of like, yeah. But I just didn't. I just did it. And it was random and rare. It's not bragging. It was random and rare and lucky.
No, you're good.
So,
you're right.
Well, you get to say that.
Yeah.
I get to say it was random and rare. But I wasn't. I knew. I mean, I could certainly have honed it better and made better, more informed choices had I spent more time with it. So then they wanted to see me, and I had a meeting with Scott, and then they had offered me, but they wouldn't tell me what it was. And so I was like, well, I need to know what it is, or I can't. It's like, well, we can't tell you. I said, well, then I can't accept the job. And it's kind of like,
you booked this phantom job. You
this
don't
thing.
know the role.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, well, here's what it is, And I was like, okay, great. And then we went back and forth, and a couple other things happened, and I almost wound up not doing it. And then it all kind of came together, and I was on a plane.
You almost ended up not doing it. You almost ended up not doing the Band of Brothers show, and we see.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Almost not doing something.
Oh, there's a pattern.
Right.
I guess it's only a pattern after it happens the third time.
There you go. But still huge projects that
turned out to be huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Really great. I'm sure The Walking Dead was so fulfilling.
Yeah.
And to get to play such a fun character.
Yep.
Very gnarly and rough, but also powerful.
And funny.
And funny. You have so many good one-liners.
Funny, like not in a world that is not funny.
Right?
It's been very, The Walking Dead fan base and production crew and producers and the network itself have been amazing to me. And so much so that last spring I was invited there to direct.
That's so cool.
So I've directed an episode last year that has since aired, and it looks like I'm going to be going back again next year.
How is it to go back and direct the people that you worked with?
For me, it was amazing. It was really amazing. Had a lot of trust with, when I came over to the show initially, the other actors knew who I was, and I got along with everyone. So they're coming at it from going, okay, here's a guy with, over 25 years of experience as an actor, that, and they most of my work has been, pretty well received. So they're not hesitant about that. They're like, okay, we know he understands us. So there's sort of like a familiarity and a trust, I think, that's built into just having the history behind me and the relationship that they have. But the crew was great. Everybody, it was just set up for success in the sense of everybody was really rooting for me, and I busted my butt doing my prep, so I would not look like a fool. I mean, I've been on the other end of seeing directors come in that don't do their prep, which, for whatever reason, whether that's how they work or they got hung up on something else, they just finished another project, because you start to realize once you've directed, you realize how circumstances can make it so your prep is affected. They might not have gotten a script, till the last minute. A script could have radically changed. They might not have been in town. They might have, had a completely different concept of what they wanted to do, and that was changed. So it's not always just the director's fault, but the director is the one who is at the helm, and you want to at least project an air of being in charge and having a handle on it, even if you don't, because there's times where you're just making decisions, on the fly because you have to, and you've done so much prep and you've worked out so many different scenarios of what if. okay, we're going to do this, and then something happens, and typically it's something that you guys talked about, so you can roll right back into the other plan.
Got it.
So it's not like, oh, you're sort of like, okay, we'll do this now. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, great. So it's just keep everything moving forward and focused, and, be ready with the answers, because the questions are coming.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And then are you super hands-on with the
Super
actors?
Super hands-on. Yeah, I love it.
Look at you. You're like...
No, I love it. I had such a great time directing, and had worked with some really, really talented people. And just, I think when you have that sort of perfect situation, everybody just, does better work.
100%.
Yeah.
Are you going to try to direct on The Kids Are All Right?
If I do, it won't be till second season.
Okay.
I need to really understand. I spoke with them about it when I came in, that this is what I was doing, and they actually had to carve out time so I could do my Walking Dead. That's why we started our season so late. I said, look, I'm going to do the pilot, but if we get picked up, I do have this thing scheduled already. Can we work around it? And they were like, yeah, no problem.
Oh,
and then
that's
Disney
nice.
was like, well, we need to make sure. And then in the end, they were like, oh, yeah, we're fine. So it's all good.
Aw, thank you. And now we have to get to our rapid fire questions.
Boxer
I know.
briefs. Sorry.
What did you say, both? You wear them both at the same time?
Boxer briefs. You've never seen a boxer brief?
I thought you said, yes, I have seen boxer Blondes.
What? You've never seen a boxer briefs? It's really weird.
Tidy whitey.
It was really weird. He was like talking about, and he just stood up and dropped his pants. The interview was going so well. It's just like the wheels came off the bus.
That would have been really interesting. Okay, so one is you've worked with iconic people like Robert Redford, Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks. What did you learn from them, and what do you think is something you can walk away from as why they're so great?
Tom, I think he's sort of an example of humbleness and grace, just in his daily life. I think if everyone can sort of strive to be more like Tom Hanks, to have more Tom Hanks in your life and in your personality, I think you'll be fine. The world could be a better place if we could all have just a little bit more Tom Hanks in our lives. Robert Redford had said something to me that I didn't until recently when I directed realize how profound and true it was. He had said, I did A River Runs Through. It was one of the first films I ever did, and I showed up on set, and I had done some rehearsing of the scene, and I said, I think it would be really cool if I came over here and sat down and did this from over here. And he's like, oh. And he looks around, and he's like, okay, yeah, let's run it. So we ran it, and he's like, 100%. He goes, okay, it's going to take a couple hours. We need to move all the track. We had set up for something else. And I go, no, what do you, I could stay over. He goes, no. That's why you're here. I go, that's why I'm here. He goes, yeah. He goes, directing's easy if you do all your prep. Comes back to what we were talking about, the prep.
Yes.
He goes, if I hire a DP who shares my vision, and I have actors who I've hired who I know who are in the room, and I'm able to direct them to share my vision, and the wardrobe shares my vision, and the art department shares my vision. He goes, when I show up, all I have to do is shoot it.
Wow.
Now that is obviously oversimplifying everything.
Totally.
But the idea of surrounding yourself with people that share your vision and are enthusiastic about the project you want to do is what's important.
And
because
trusting
that,
them.
yes, and that's what makes it easy. He goes, I brought you in here because you are who I wanted to play the role, and you feel you need to be here. We just rehearsed it. It's great. This is what it should be. I'm not going to try to force you to do what I think it was going to be.
Wow.
So I'm like, holy crap.
Taking that note.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I was just like, oh, okay. I was like 11 years old. No, I wasn't 11, but I was like, Robert Redford, holy crap. I'm talking to Robert Redford. But years later, you realize, oh, yeah.
That's what he was talking about. Wow. Okay. So then what's the most difficult decision you've had to make to fulfill your greater purpose?
Oh, I don't know. Most difficult decision. I don't know.
Do you need me to come back to that one?
Yeah, let's come back to that one. I may stick with I don't know. Because I'm not going to make something up. I mean, I could even make something up, but that would be out here forever. Then it would be on the internet and stuff. And be like, well, you said. I don't know.
Well, all right. We'll think about it. And if not at the end of this interview, then maybe you'll marinate
I'll phone
on it
in.
and you'll come back, and then we'll...
I'll put it in the comment section.
Okay, what are your keys to success?
Keep yourself happy, whatever that means. I always say, I've done a few sort of lectures. I don't know what you call it. I've spoken at a couple of events, and I get asked by young actors, what would you recommend? And I always say, keep yourself in a position to be hired, and that means keeping yourself happy. That means that if you have a job that you are miserable at, go find a job that you love, because then you'll be happy, even if it's not making the kind of money you need to be making. Because you need to be in a place where when the luck or the opportunity happens, you need to be ready for it. And nothing is more tangible in a room than fear.
Yep.
And unhappiness.
Interesting.
And you come in a room, and you got to remember, these people are looking to find someone who not only can do the work, but somebody that you're going to spend 14, 15 hours a day with. And you're like, that person? All that negative energy when you come into a room? Yeah, bye-bye. Good luck to you.
So true. I feel like I wish I had heard that years ago. I mean, now I don't, but back in the day, early on in my career, I was waitressing, and I hated it.
Yeah, can't
And
get out
like,
of it.
I should have.
Because there's a lot of people who love it. That's the thing. It's not about.
No.
It's not about. Don't do that. It's
No,
like
I
don't
agree.
do
It's just for
like what
me.
makes you miserable.
Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that in like a negative way for
No.
people
I know,
to do it.
but I would say to people out there, you go, I mean, I would have loved, had I not done construction, I would have loved to have been a bartender. Because I just love talking to people, but then there's people who are like, my bartender's not going to blow my brains out. And you're like,
Yeah,
well, then stop. And they go, but the money's good, and I just hate it. I go, yeah, but you hate it. You hate it. It's like it's toxic.
Good advice. Okay, what do you do for inspiration?
Inspiration? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I do anything for inspiration. I do stuff for relaxation. I find, I share this with a buddy of mine, Frank John Hughes, a screenwriter, also an actor.
Yeah.
We both actually go to like big cities or like Vegas to relax.
What?
Inside all of the noise and confusion, I'm able to find calm. Sometimes when I go out to calm places, if I go to the mountains, when I go snowboarding or this and that, sometimes when I have to get back to the city. I'm like, I can't take this quiet. It's like
Too much.
the quiet is too noisy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I love cities so much.
Yeah, I get off a plane and I get into Manhattan. If I get a meeting or a project or something, I would just throw on my jacket, my hat, my scarf, and I would just cruise on down to Times Square. And I'm just like, and there's just like all these people. I'm just like, yeah,
This is amazing.
perfect.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your greatest failure, and what did it teach you?
My greatest failure, I worked on a project, and I won't name the project. And it was a shared failure because it was like I actually was cast in a project but didn't know I was cast in the project until I got my
Okay.
call.
Okay.
And like, okay, you're calling for sizes. So sizes for what? Oh, you're working Monday. Working Monday? It's Sunday afternoon. Project I was hired on had a 4-page monologue had to deliver.
Oh, wow.
And it was the audition material. Showed up to work
But-
in the morning, 4:00 in the morning, hadn't slept, working on the material, couldn't say one word of it. Not one word of it. I was literally like, I was that guy. And it was horrible. And then I changed the way I work, preparation-wise, for being on set after that, even though it had nothing to sort of do with me.
Right.
But,
Because that doesn't
wound
sound
up writing a
it's-
letter to the writer, wound up working with the director years later, who he was like, oh my God, I'd seen your work. And he goes, I thought you were on drugs. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I was just like, what the hell's wrong with this kid? Yeah.
Wow.
It was
So
horrible.
it's just you were probably
horrible.
like exhausted.
Totally.
You couldn't think, and all this pressure.
No, stress and anxiety. And
Yeah.
it's like a whole like confluence or convergence of crappy stuff. It was bad.
So it taught
So it's
you-
sort of like, but it was not inflicted. They inflicted it on me, but I
course.
just didn't. It was literally like, yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
So now you've just changed the process, maybe to get yourself in a more zen.
Exactly. To take everything a little less serious, and that calmness and that sort of ease with it helps me function better with
Amazing.
stressful situations.
Okay, the last question.
Mm-hmm.
If you could define the legacy you want to leave behind in a couple of words, what would it be?
Oh my! I want my kids to be happy.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Do you think they're happy?
Yeah.
Aw.
I think they're finding it, but I think they are. And I want them, like in their lives, I want them to find happiness. That's, to me, that's success. I want them to do whatever they choose to do. And when they're trying to achieve that, I want them to be happy along the way.
That's really beautiful.
It's that old, what is it? Life is what happens while you're waiting for your life to happen.
Yeah, so true. You want your kids, to bring this full circle, like he said in The Kids Are All Right, he wants his kids to reach for the stars.
Absolutely. That's honestly, it's probably why that affected me so much.
100%.
Because it spoke to me.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being here. And tell everybody to go watch The Kids Are All Right.
ABC, Tuesdays at 8:30.
And I'm here to tell you, it's effing amazing.
It's
Do
funny.
not miss it.
Ton of
Go
heart.
watch it. And thank you, Michael, for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thanks
You're
for
the
having
man.
me. Thank you.
Bye. We have great guests coming up this season. Thanks, guys.